Hello, welcome to episode 28 of Knitting Matters. Thank you very much for taking the time to join us today, whether live or for the replay. I'm Cheryl Lampard, I'm an image consultant. My company is Style Matters International. And throughout my life, I've had two great pleasures, which are sewing and knitting. And knitting in particular, I find my de-stressor. It's very therapeutic and relaxing to me. I used to also be the owner of a fabulous designer yarn shop in Brighton, England. And one of the great things about having a yarn store is that you get to teach people how to knit with those gorgeous yarns. And it's my pleasure now to teach you how to knit, albeit on a different platform. This week we're going to talk about pockets. Keep questions coming in on the thread below. I can't actually see them while I'm doing the live, but feel free to put any comments or questions. And through the week, put questions and comments. Knitting Matters page is there for you to do that. And don't forget that our friends at Mary Maxim are offering a 20% discount on one item on anything you choose from their marymaxim.com website. So anything you put in your cart, it will be the highest priced item that gets the 20% discount, but you must remember to put the promo code Cheryl in. Do have a look around this site because there's all sorts of goodies coming along for the festive season, but you must put that promo code Cheryl in. And talking of Christmas, we are going to be doing some festive projects soon, so watch out for when I post those. I'm not quite sure yet what those projects will be, but we will be having some jolly Christmas projects on the go. I'm going to ask the camera now to turn to the worktop and we'll get going on our pockets topic. Okay. So all sorts of garments need pockets or have pockets. Knitted garments are no exception. And there's a trend at the moment for long scarves with pockets, pocket scarves that, you know, are actually at sort of fingertip length. They're wonderful things and I love them. And you could actually add a pocket to an existing scarf if you've knitted one and then now decide you want a pocket. And I'll show you how to do that in a while. Because even if a pattern doesn't have pockets, you can add them. There are different ways to position your pockets too. You can have them inset in a seam, you can have them slanted, you can have them vertical or horizontal as this one is. And this is a classic kind of pocket position to have it horizontally on a cardigan or a jacket or even a sweater. And I'm going to show you how to do this one in a moment. This is actually called an inset pocket, where the pocket itself is inconspicuous. And what I've done here is I've knitted up the fabric, then I've created a gap and put the pocket lining in behind. That sounds complicated, but it's really not. And I'm going to show you how to do that. So when we do an inset pocket, and this could just as easily be placed vertically. The principle is the same. So however you want your pockets, the basic elements are the same. First, you have to decide where you want them, especially if the pattern doesn't state, or you might need to alter it. Let's say you lengthen a cardigan and you want it much longer. Well, you need to actually put the pockets where you're going to use them. So if you're doing a knee length coat or jacket, you might need the pockets a bit higher. Otherwise, you're going to be stretching down to reach your pockets. So you do need to think about that first. Or if you actually alter the pattern, you need to make sure the pocket is in the right place for where you want it. So assuming that you have done that, let's have a look at how we do an inset pocket. So essentially what we have is we do a lining first. And in this instance, the lining is just a square. It could be longer than this, it could be wider, but just for sample purposes, I'm going to use this. I've done it in a different color so you can see what I'm doing, but I've also knitted up my main part. So let's say this is the front of a cardigan, something like that. I know I want my pocket in the middle. I've got 16 stitches for my pocket lining. And I've done 32 stitches here. So here's what we do. I'm going to knit 8 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now I'm going to place 16 stitches, whoops, on my rather springy stitch holder. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Now, some people don't place them on a stitch holder. You can, if you wish, do your edge if you want to now, or you can cast off. You can bind off, you can do your trim, as I have done here. But I prefer to put them on a stitch holder because I might change my mind about the trim that I want. I might decide to do something different. So I'd really rather just leave that on a stitch holder and come back to it. So now I take my pocket lining or my pocket backing, and I'm going to knit. I'm going to use my sweater yarn. I need to tighten that up a bit, that thread. I'm going to knit my pocket lining along and carry on the rest of the row. Now, as I said, I have done this a different colour so you can see, but there's no reason. It's normal to do the same colour as the garment that you're making, but you don't have to. If you want a fun, sort of funky style of garment, you could easily do a different colour. Now you carry on knitting the rest of your row. Okay, get my stitch holder out the way so I don't pop the top off. So I'm going to carry it on. Now I'm just going to knit another row to bring me back to the start of my knitting. So you can see now my pocket lining, my pocket back, is firmly attached to my knitting. I'm just going to do another row to bring me back. Obviously, if this were a garment, you would, well, say obviously, if this were a garment, you would just keep knitting until you'd done the rest of the piece and bound off, and then you'd come back to deal with how you want to finish your pocket off. Clearly, I'm not going to have you sit and wait while I'm knitting away several inches more, so we'll just pretend in a moment that I've done that. It's usual also to do the pocket in the same yarn that you're knitting for the fabric of the garment, but if it's a really chunky yarn, you can use a finer yarn if you have any. You want to keep it as flat as possible, and the bulkier the yarn, obviously the more bulk you're going to have. But again, if you were using a very fine yarn, well, you could go an even finer one, but it's not going to be such a problem. You can even make pockets with fabric linings, but that's a whole other subject, which we'll do maybe another time. And we just want to keep it simple so you can see the basis of what we're doing. So now you can see my pocket lining is on the needles. Okay, you can see that different color there. I've just knitted it in, and keep the pocket lining, the backing, a stockinette stitch. It's the flattest stitch, and you just don't want to add extra bulk. So now just suspend your imagination and imagine that I've knitted the rest of the garment and I've bound it off. Now I come to how I'm going to finish this pocket. So let me just grab a little mat so I can stab into it. So I now have my pocket, and I would recommend when you're sewing this that you do it flat. This is not something you want to do on your lap. It's one thing knitting on your lap, but you really want to be doing this flat. So what I'm going to do, and I'm going to start on this one, I'm going to actually start at the top. I'm just going to have to, so I'm going to have to decide, let's put just a pen in here, where I'm going to go. So this is why you need to take a bit of time and look for positioning. So this is where my stitch is. So I want to go, that's going to be somewhere along here. Okay, that's going to be where I'm going to pick up, just to give me my starting off point. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do it in a contrast yarn so that you can see, and I'm just going to whip stitch along. I am just going to put a loose knot in that just to hold it as I go along. I need to just turn slightly. So all I'm going to do here is pick up the kind of pearl bumps a bit further down. So I'm going to go here. Actually, I'm going to go in that way, and then I'm going to pick up one edge, one stitch in from the edge of my pocket lining. Okay, you don't want to make this too tight. So then I'm going to go to the next pearl bump down. I'm at a bit of an awkward angle here, but I'm going to go down one more. Can't see where I am. Okay, I'm going to go to this one just to give you the idea. You don't want it showing on the right side, so every now and then check what it's looking like. And all I'm doing is whip stitching. Once you get started, it's a bit easier to see where you're going. Yeah. So I'm just picking up these pearl bumps. You can always go back and do some extra stitches if you feel you've made it too loose. But the important thing is to get that line of where you're going. Now let's just flip it over and see. Yeah, that's nice, and that's looking good. You do want to keep that, you want that same line of stitches of pearl bumps, because otherwise it will, those little indentations will show. So I'll go down one more just to speed the process up a little. And I'm not going to tighten it. You can always go back and, you know, tighten up your stitches a little later, but you don't want those indentations showing through. Now, it does serve you well if you've done your piece of knitting to have blocked both your garment and your pocket lining first, but which I did to some degree yesterday. Yep, still good. Now we're going along the bottom. And again, it's just, you're just whip stitching. That's my line there. That's where I'm going. It's actually easier when you're going horizontally because you can really see where you're going. So I'm just picking up the pearl bumps. And I've chosen here to just come up above the ribbing. Because if this were a cardigan, I might want it positioned further up. I might not, but in this instance, I have. And again, when I show you a different method in a minute, you need more than one to choose from. You start looking and you can't see where you're looking. Okay. Always better to keep it looser. You can tighten it when you get to the end if you need to. It's the wonderful thing with sewing with you can just kind of pull your stitches and ease them along if you need to. Always easier to tighten it rather than to try and get it looser. So that's my, and obviously I would go up that side as well, but let me just show you what that looks like on the outside. Pretty good. And once you've blocked that out again, that would be, dare I say, seamless. And then you would just go back and pick up those stitches, and then you can decide what edge you want to do. I just did in a contrast, I just did seed stitch, one row, knit one, purl one, and on the back, on the row back, you do the opposite. You don't have to do ribbon. You could even do an I-cord finish. That would be quite quirky. Anything you want to do, really. And then you would just put the threads through the back and stitch them in exactly as I've showed you there. So that's how you would do an inset pocket. Okay. I think that works really well. So let's now look at what if you've made your garment and you think, oh, I wish I'd put a pocket in. Well, the joy of it is that you can. And this is doing a patch pocket. I was never a fan of patch pockets because I don't like the idea of them just being sort of stuck on. But this I think works really well. Now let's assume this is the left side of my cardigan, so my button band would be here. I've chosen just a very simple rib edging, and I've done that ahead of time. So in this instant, I've not done a pocket lining, it's actually the pocket. So I've done a pocket with 16 stitches, however many rows I've done, and then a few rows of rib. I've done exactly the same idea, the same size. But what really makes your patch pockets stand out is how you attach them. Otherwise, they can look very messy. And this is where you do really need to be quite careful about the placement. But the trick is the stitching that you use to attach it. And I now love patch pockets because of the way that these are done. So all I've done here, let's get that mat again, is I've just marked with some other thread exactly the position of my pockets. Now it looks as if that's waving in a bit. It's actually not. It's exactly down the line where I want to be stitching. It's just that the rib is pulling it in. Okay. So I've already marked that just with a loose thread that I'll pull out as I go along. In this instance, I do want my pocket to be right above the ribbing. So it's 16 stitches again. I didn't do any fancy edges. I just did stockinette stitch all the way across, because as I knit this, as I sew this up, that edge is going to be kind of encased. But I would start here at the bottom, because what we're going to do here to make this really kind of seamless, like this is here, it's integrated so beautifully and yet that's stitched on, I'm going to use duplicate stitch. And you might remember we did duplicate stitch a couple of weeks ago, based on a question from one of our viewers. This is the basis of duplicate stitch here, but we're going to use it to actually stitch this on. I'm going to use a different colour so you can see what I'm doing. Now, again, let's get just a pin to hold that. I need to go, I'm going to hold that side there. I'm going to go, I need my first stitch for going up there, so I'm going to come in at the bottom, and I'm coming up just at that very, oh gosh, I'm coming up here. This is my first sort of V stitch, and I'm going to come from the back, and I'm going to come up here. Actually, I'm going to go one along, sorry, I'm going to go one along, that's better. Because that's going to be my edge. So I'm going to pick up this, I'm going to come up. I'm not going to worry about knotting or anything at the minute. I'm just going to leave a length. Now I'm going to come here and pick up those two legs of that V of the knit stitch. I'm going to go along one. I'm not going to go back into the same, actually I am, and then I'm going to come up. I'm going to go back into the same stitch that I came up out of, and then go along one. I can take that out now. Now I'm going to go here. And I'm going to go back in where I came out, and I'm going to go to the next one along. Now obviously you're seeing this in a different colour, but I promise you it becomes invisible. I'm going into the two legs of my pearl knit stitch there, back into where I came up. I hope you can see this okay. And along to the next stitch. And so on. Now obviously that shows because it's the same, it's a different colour. I'll do a couple more and then I'll do the side. this duplicate stitch really makes such a difference. And I quite like a pocket sort of just above the ribbon. To me, it's a sort of a natural place for it to go, but it does depend on the size of the pocket that you're doing. You could do more than one pocket, you could stack them above each other, but doing it just above this hem of ribbing, or this band of ribbing, it's a very accurate line that you get, and it does look as if it's all knitted in. So this is a wonderful technique if you want to put a pocket on afterwards. Put a pocket on. Why does that remind me of a song? Something from Oliver, Pick a Pocket or Two. So I'll do one more of these, and then I'll do the side seam for you. Actually, I'm nearly there. But you can see how, oh, I've just caught a bit of thread there. If I was doing that properly, I'd go back and unpick that. I've just caught a thread, but for this purpose, I might as well keep going and then go straight up the side. Don't want to do it too tight, remember. But you can see how lovely that duplicate stitch is. For sewing on a patch pocket. I never used to like patch pockets. I don't like them looking clunky, as if they've just been stuck on. But, you know, you could make a feature out of that. You could actually attach a pocket with blanket stitch or something like that and really make a feature out of it. Okay, so I'm going to go now. Now, I've already marked where my side of my pocket has to go up. So I'm going to stop short there, and I'm going to turn this because it's just going to be easier, I think, for you to see and for me to work. So this is where I'm going to go. Remember, we did mattress stitch last week in seaming, and we've certainly done it. So you're going up the side, you're going to pick, you're just going to go up, you're going to pick the bar that runs across. So this is why I put this line in, just so I can see which row I need to go. Once I get going, I can remove that. In fact, I'll remove it now because I'm going to be getting it caught in my needle. So all I'm doing is going up. I'm finding that ladder between the stitches. I'm going to go up from one side to the other. And you don't have to do it every stitch. And as I'm doing that, that edge stitch will curl in. Get rid of that now. I know where I'm going now. And again, when you're doing in a matching yarn, it's not going to show at all. Even just pulling that in like that, you can see it disappears. Just do a couple more. It's worth taking your time with the pockets. You don't really want to have to unpick them. You can if you need to, but you don't really want to. So it is worth taking the time. And this is why I say actually stitching the pockets on isn't something to be done on your lap. It's fine to do the knitting on your lap, but you really want a flat worktop or table. Let me just get to the end here, and you'll see, even with a different colour, how much that blends in. I'm running against the clock now, but that's okay. So you just keep going up, do your mattress stitch. You'll be sick of the sight of mattress stitch by the time. But it's such a useful technique, and that duplicate stitch for the bottom is fabulous. Okay, so then of course I would just put that to the back, and you can see how good that pocket is there. Although it's a patch pocket, it's integrated beautifully. And on the wrong side, that's how it would look. And of course, if you did it in the same colour yarn, that's exactly what I did here. I just wanted you to see how I did that duplicate stitch at the bottom. Okay, so that's 2 ways with pockets, our inset pocket and then a patch pocket. I'm going to ask the camera to turn back to me, please. So I hope that's got you excited about pockets, and you'll be raring to stick pockets on just about everything now. I think it's fabulous that you can put pockets on afterwards. That's a technique that I really didn't know you could do until several years ago. And once I discovered it, oh, I can put pockets everywhere. I can add an extra pocket. I always used to do this inset pocket technique and then thought that was that, because I never liked the look of a patch pocket. But doing it like this, it's beautiful. So I hope that's got you all inspired to do a lot more pockety projects. That's hard to say. So don't forget, this episode of Knitter Matters is uploaded to the page. You can find it on the Knitter Matters page. If you go to the left of the page and just look at videos, they're all there. They're also uploaded to our YouTube channel, the Knitter Matters YouTube channel. They're there. So don't forget to like, follow, share and subscribe to those channels. We want to, and share it with your friends. We want to reach more knitters. Don't forget also, if you've got any questions, do share them on this page. If you've got a question that you want to ask, I'm sure somebody else will want to know the answer to. So don't hesitate to do that. I'm here to help. So until next week, stay well, stay safe, stay calm, and keep knitting. Take care now. See you next week. Bye-bye for now.